Stop right there. Yeah, you. If you like all things entertainment, current events, or Hollywood, then look no further. Creator to Creators, hosted by director Meosha Bean of Horror Noir, interviews filmmakers and creatives from around the world. Join in on the fun, guest celebrities, and informative information to have as a creator. Hit subscribe and stay connected to Creator to Creators.
Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Creators to Creators. Today we have a very special guest.
I'm Liyana Mansor.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, I'm super excited. I love. First of all, you're so talented. I love going back to the beginning. I always say, like, when we're kids, the things that we pick up, our childhood, it's like those things kind of follow us as we're older somehow, So what was your childhood like? And like, kind of, how did you get into the things that you're doing now?
Gosh, yeah, I feel like I had a really convoluted journey but I was born in a really small country called Brunei in Southeast Asia. It's on Borneo Island. And then I actually came to England when I was about 8 or 9. And we were sort of plucked from this beautiful tropical, environment and then dropped into this like industrial town in the north of England. So it was a massive culture shock. Um, and the thing about Brunei is it's so family centric as well. It feels like the whole village is your family. And then
I love that.
we also kind of were moved away from that. But I guess, I had my cousins as well, and we were always sort of playing, we were that generation that still played outside.
Yes.
And it's so funny you asked me about my child, because now I keep getting flashbacks of like all the times that we were roaming fields or playing in gardens, and we would play out like scenes from films and movies, and we would create like characters or creatures and build like little cities and then destroy them, Godzilla style. So I think, yeah, I mean, we definitely had a lot of imaginative games growing up. But and if we weren't doing that, then I was definitely just watching a lot of movies and getting lost in that. And then my dad's actually an engineer, and he always wanted his daughters to be engineers and follow in his footsteps. And one sister did catering and one sister did hair and beauty, and I was like, I'm gonna be an engineer. I signed up for the course, but no one else did, so they cancelled the course. So I did film and media instead.
Nice.
Fast forward however many years, and actually now my sisters are both engineers.
Wow, incredible. What like made you interested in that particular like part of
engineering?
Yeah, like, well, so like from engineering to then wanting to do editing, like
I think,
yeah,
I thought I could do engineering because I was really interested in how things work. So I
love
was
that
sort of kid who was always taking things apart and not always putting them back together, but was really interested in how the mechanics of things worked. And I think that translated to film. And also it was something that I enjoyed, but I guess I didn't really come from a world where they would encourage you to do creative things, because in their minds maybe it didn't translate to a career, which is unfortunate, but I'm really glad that I kind of like managed to surpass that. And when I did, film and media at college, and we were getting to play with cameras for the first time, our own little short films and music videos, it was the editing part that was the most addictive part. That was the part where you could make it into, any number of things depending on what you did with the material. And I also got the biggest buzz out of it as well. And I thought, but I still didn't really know that like it could be a career. So I still thought of it as a bigger production thing, I guess. I was like, oh, you have to do all the parts, come up with an idea, shoot it, find the people to do it, you know. So, and I was really sort of into shiny high-end commercials at the time, you know. I
Great.
would just love to look at them, and or I loved like the messages that they had, or if they were funny, I thought, oh, that's so great that they made this thing to get that joke across and it's still sending a message. And so I ended up doing creative advertising
Nice.
at uni. I did like a bachelor's degree, and it was less about film production and more about like how you develop ideas and how you like it was more about creative problem solving and how to, you know, navigate that and different methods and things like that, which was still helpful, but I still didn't understand how to get into post-production at that time. Yeah. So I was still in the north of England, but I kind of took a punt on like I think it was 2 weeks like 2 week placement at an ad agency in London.
Oh,
And
cool.
I had like no money and I didn't have anywhere to live because I had to move out of my student accommodation. But I was like, I'm just gonna do it.
I love that. I love that though, that fearlessness, like just like I'm just gonna go and figure it out.
I think, you know, yeah, I think there's like two types of people in a way. Like there's people who have a big safety net and it's really easy for them to go home and then they become very comfortable.
Yeah.
And then people who don't have that, they can't look back and turn around and they've got to keep going forward because there's no
Yeah.
other sort of way. And I'm so grateful for that in a way because I just had my backpack and like a little bag,
Wow.
which I would have under my desk at work. And I was
Wow.
getting like a pittance for London living.
Wow.
And I stayed in this hostel across the road for like £9 a night, which I shared a
Wow.
room with like two South African guys and a chef who was going through a divorce. Which at
Oh.
the time I wouldn't do that now, and I wouldn't recommend a young something-year-old do that. But at the time, it wasn't the danger that was on my mind. It was the
Yeah.
I've got to do this because I need to get to this job because this is where my, you know, this is
Yeah.
how I get my next job. And
It's amazing.
yeah, it was cool. And then when I ran out of money in the first week, I slept on the floor of a friend's for the next week, and then I made more friends in London, and you know, I did a lot of couch surfing. Also started getting closer to the post-production industry and getting this like better understanding of it. And then after I can't remember, maybe 1 or 2 years in advertising, I just started again at the bottom in a post house as a runner, which was fine because I think when you really know what you want to do, you're like laser focused. And I was only running for like 5 weeks because I was spending all my lunch times and all my time after my shifts training in the machine rooms because I
Wow.
don't want to be no one wants to be a runner. Everyone wants a stepping stone, right?
For sure.
But then you meet people who don't know what they want to do and they're running for 1 or 2 years and they're really disheartened and they're jaded and then they end up leaving the industry before they've even started. And I think that's always such a shame. And I think a lot of it depends on the post house that you're in and whether you're encouraged to, you know, get some training in and see what you like, what you don't like. But I knew what I wanted to do. So I was just constantly knocking on machine room doors. So
That's
I started,
amazing.
yeah, it was cool. And I say it's cool. I mean, the position I was trying to get in for was like working in a really cold basement machine room at the bottom of a post house. Um, but it was great because I picked up so much of my initial technical knowledge from there. You know, it was like entertainment TV. So we were doing like Top Gear and The Voice and Gogglebox and those types of shows.
Nice.
And but you're just it's no like creative input. So I think once my contract there ran out, I was like, I'm gone, bye. I like had my sights set on this short form post house and I was like I love their work and I really want to work there, and I was like knocking on the door, and then I got a few days work and then they really liked me and offered me a job, which was cool, and I was like, finally made it. And I hate it. It was awful. Like I didn't like the company culture at all, and people were miserable, and I was like, oh, I waited so long to get here. But that actually was what made me go freelance as an assistant editor.
Mm,
And then I kind of started going around the houses. I did freelancing work for like Warner Brothers and ITN, and I did a documentary. I was like, yeah, okay, cool. And then I did like a couple of other things. And then I did my first drama job, which was Black Mirror, and that's when I realized this is home.
yeah.
This is what it be, and then it felt really good, and I haven't really left that world since because I know that that's what I want to do, you know?
Yeah. It's interesting you said you did a lot of freelance. A lot of people think freelance jobs are, oh, I shouldn't do that, but I feel like it is great to take to do that because you just never know what those opportunities are going to lead up to, like the next opportunity, like the bigger ones.
And yeah, and you meet so many different people, and you're quite likely to come across them again in the future as well, and you never know what that might bring. And yeah, I mean, I kind of want to be versatile anyway,
Yeah.
so I'm grateful for all the different experiences that I had and all the different people, and also sometimes people, come to you when they're trying to get in the industry and they're like, I really want to work on a documentary, and I'm like, I don't do documentaries, so I don't know, but you know some people who do, so you're still creating a bit of a pathway to help people instead of just being like, sorry, I don't know what to do.
Bye. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and even then, when I got into Black Mirror, I still wasn't actually editing. I took the role of VFX editor because that
Oh.
was the role that was available, and that was what was going to get me into the cutting room. So,
Mm,
and at that time, I don't think anyone ever was like, I want to be a VFX editor.
mm.
Was like a role that people fell into or got pushed into because it was a requirement.
Is it hard to do, or I don't know. What does it all entail if you
Well, it's sort of, on one hand, it's very administrative. Like,
mm,
you're tracking a lot of things, you're tracking shots, you're tracking frames, you're tracking time codes and work that
gotcha.
needs to be done. And then on the other hand, if this is your kind of thing, it can be really creative because you're temp comping shots. So you get to help the editor put his best foot forward by, putting things into shots or taking things out of shots or helping them work out the mechanics of how an element in a shot might work. And it's more informative to the director or the producers when they watch it, because there was a
Mm.
time when we would just go, there will be a hologram here in tech.
Okay.
Not like enough. So we're now we can actually, scan things or people or get, turntables, and we can put it into the shot at the sort of relatively correct size and look and speed, and you're watching a rough version of what it will actually look like, and it's so much easier for people to consume, I think, and
Mm.
understand the scene. And it is part, especially if it's part of the storytelling. And then you're also taking out distractions. So if there's a crew guy in the back or there's a boom or whatever, you paint those out, you're removing distractions. It's just sort of helping the editor help the audience's concentration and attention be in the right place at the right time.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Nice. Nice. Wow. That's incredible. So you get that, and then you're working there, and then when do you make the transition into the cutting board?
I kind of I was on a series called The Alienist. This was probably 2018, 2019. I did the first season as a VFX editor, and
Nice.
then yeah, it was great because it overran, as a lot of shows tend to do. The majority of the editors had already had other jobs lined up, so they did their contracted time and then they left. But we had like 8 out of 10 episodes still unlocked,
Oh, wow.
and yeah, so we were like, oh, and we had this incredible exec producer who came from Hollywood to London and was on the ground here, and sort of asked, do you want to help us get this over the line and do some edit notes here and there? So on the first season, it was sort of fitting it around my VFX editing duties and doing, which was cool because I was like, I don't know if I can do this, but I'm going to do it.
I love that.
Yeah, I always say yes and then work it out.
Yeah,
I
same. Oh my gosh, yes.
So important.
What's your sign?
Aquarius.
Ah,
What's yours?
I'm an Aries.
Mm.
That's
But it's
cool.
important not to count yourself out at the beginning, right? No one wants, this is what one of the main things I've learned about this industry is like, nobody wants to hear no, and nobody wants to hear what your problem is. They just want solutions.
Yep.
And I don't always know if I have the solution, but I know that I'm willing to work my butt off and see how far I can get towards the solution. And I think
that.
Totally appreciated. If I don't know if I can do it, I won't just say, yes, absolutely, 100% I can do that. I just getting myself in trouble. But I will say, of course, I'll take a look at it, leave it with me, and I'll see what I can do, which is a little managing people's expectations a little bit more,
Yeah. And I think that you're so right. It's saying it. Something that I definitely learned as well in this business is like saying yes and figuring it out. Like somehow, it's gonna like all the pieces will come together eventually. But I've never been that person that was like, even if something scares me, I still go for it because I feel like that's like the biggest, like the way we grow,
Yeah. If you're like the type of person who works better under pressure,
Yes.
definitely something that works for you. And I like that you just said that if it's something that you're scared of, because that's one of the signs that I take to do the job. Like if something scares me and I start freaking out, I'm like, oh, I better do this so I can get over it and get over myself. I know when I come out the other side, like you said, I would have grown and I would have learned so much, and I'll be so relieved that I did it rather than I was too scared to do it, so I backed off. I'd be really displeased myself if I took that route.
Yeah.
So I like it when I get scared now. I still freak out before every job.
Really?
Oh yeah, but
With all the things that you've done, I mean, come on.
it's like now I realize it's like part of the ritual. It's part of the
Mm,
cycle. So like
mm.
the day before I start a new job, suddenly I'll go, oh my God, I'm starting this new job. What if I can't do it? And then I get there and it's all fine. And so now I recognize those feelings and I just let it happen because I know
Mm.
it's part of my process.
Yes, yes. I love that. I love that's a
I
part of the
didn't.
process.
If I didn't
Mm.
feel that way, I would think, oh, maybe I don't care about this job. Like,
Mm,
you know?
I see. That's actually
And
interesting. I never thought of it that way.
yeah,
Yeah.
I want to be invested in what I'm working in. I want to be like, you know, um, I want to care about doing a good job for the people that I'm working with. And if I don't, then I just think that I'd be really unhappy.
Wow.
Like in the day-to-day role, right? I don't, what would be driving me every day? I don't know. Like, would I
That's
be that person who's like waiting? I'm not that person who waits for it to become a certain time because I'm really into my work, but I
mm-hmm.
wouldn't want to be that person. Like,
Do you do you feel like you found your purpose in life?
yeah, I feel like even though I've been in this industry for over 12 years, I feel like I'm still young in the industry because I still feel like I want to be in it for another 12, 20 years. So in a way, I feel like I still have so much to experience and create
Mm.
and learn and, so, and I do think that we're always learning new things every day. Unexpectedly, even if you've done the same job 100 times,
Yes.
something will come, you'll work with someone and they'll show you something. You're like, I did not do that. Well, I love being that person too who's like, have you ever done it this way? So I'm definitely a sharer of knowledge, and I love working with people who are, the same, who like to share.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful. That's beautiful. I mean, I looked at your resume is impeccable. It's amazing. tell me, what was it feeling like when you got the series Knuckles? And like, were you like, was there any job that come to your desk, you're like, wow, you kind of freaked out a little bit, like that's kind of cool, like I got this opportunity?
Always. I mean, I'm always really like, I think thank you for saying that about my resume. And I feel really lucky that I've had the chance to work on those shows. And I mean, sometimes you don't know that it's going to be as great as it is, like Chernobyl.
Mm.
When
Ah,
you,
great show. Oh my
yeah, when I
gosh.
read the scripts, they were the best scripts that I've ever read. And they were so emotional and hard hitting that
Hmm.
actually, when we saw it put together, it didn't quite meet what I read in the script. So then I
Hmm.
was, oh man, what if people don't like it? I had such great expectations from the script, but not realizing that it was still, even then, it was still beyond what people were expecting to see. So I
Oh,
think Craig
it,
Mazin did an incredible job.
incredible. I was glued to the series. I think I just binge watched it. I just couldn't put it down. It was like, whoa, it was so good. It just everything was amazing. Everything, sound design, everything. The cinematography, it was gorgeous. Sad, of course, but
I
just
know it's not something you want to rewatch
no.
rewatch too soon, and it's uncomfortable, and it's definitely supposed to be. I remember, and we obviously had to watch the episodes over and over again, and I think it was episode 3 that was particularly hard to
Mm,
watch, and every time I watched it afterwards, it would just be like,
yeah,
and
yeah.
everyone would have to take a break before we could come back together and start talking about the work that we needed to do on it.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure that those are kind of, I never thought of it that way. Yeah, I'm sure because you're so close to it, you have to rewatch it, and that could actually somehow weigh on you on an emotional level. Has there been any jobs that were kind of hard to let go? Like when you're done with it, they kind of still linger with you in like in your personal life?
Um, I think I'm not sure if this fully answers your question, but I think Star Wars Andor season 1, I had such an incredible experience on that show, and I'm so proud of it. I heard someone recently talking about like peak life experiences, and I feel like Andor was a peak career experience for me. Um, and I wanted to do season 2, but I also wanted to step back into the editing chair, and it was a really, really hard decision to not do the second season, and because there was only going to be 2 seasons, and then it's going to be done.
Mm.
So I really battled with myself for such a long time. Um, and I felt like I felt a little bit brokenhearted at
Oh,
walking away from the second season because I just had such a phenomenal experience with the people I was working with, and I felt like I was the best version of myself in my role on that
oh.
job. And I felt like we could have elevated it even more on the second season. But instead, I had to put those tools down and sort of make that sacrifice and say, no, I'm gonna draw the line, and I'm gonna because I had editing opportunities on previously on the Alienist, and some the an producer said to me, if you want people to take you seriously as an editor, you need to stop taking VFX jobs, VFX editing.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, I tell you, yep, I hear you. And then I took this like 5-week job, which was just helping out on a film. I was like 5 weeks, and then after the 5 weeks, I'm gonna start buckling down and putting the feelers out for editing jobs. And that's when
Hmm.
the pandemic hit. So then
Mm.
what ended up happening is, productions got shut down. People started working from home for only 1 or 2 days a week, and this 5-week job turned into an 8-month job. And I was still in VFX, and that's when Andor came along, and I couldn't turn down doing a Lucasfilm project because I thought this chance might never come around.
Mm.
So then you fast forward 3 years, and I've still been doing VFX editing jobs, which is what he told me not to do. Which is why I had to draw this hard line and be like, no. I have to just concentrate on it. And so when Knuckles came,
Mhm.
it weirdly came on a day I got a phone call about Knuckles saying, "Do you want to do Knuckles?" I was like, "Oh, yeah, of course." I'm like, oh. And then a couple of hours later, I got a phone call from an editor who I'd been working with saying, "Do you want to come and cut on this series? It's like a British drama. It's with like really great director." And I was like, "Oh my God." For two, when like you wait an hour for a bus and then two come along at the same time.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like. And I was torn because they were both really good, but in really different ways.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, I mean, I still feel a bit hurt about having to not getting to do the other job, but ultimately, I think I made the right decision with Knuckles because I wanted to continue this relationship that I had with Paramount and the producer. And I met so many good people, and I got to be, on from literally the beginning till the end. And
Wow.
I had two of my own episodes, but when the team downsized, I carried all the episodes over the finish line. And the experience
Wow.
doing that alone was like quality, it was so invaluable to me.
Wow.
I learned a lot, and I learned a lot about what I was capable of. That was
Wow.
what was nice because a lot of shows you don't get to do that.
Really? Yeah, and the
Yeah.
fact that you carried it over. I love it. And you're a woman.
I know, it's
I
so
just love
funny
that.
because, we spend so much. I feel so. I hate this because you automatically go, I feel so lucky, but it isn't luck. Like I worked so hard to be
Yeah.
in and it's like, oh, you were in the right place at the right time. Like, no, I was in at work late because I
Yeah.
was hard, and that's why I was the only person around to ask, hey, do you want to come and help us edit this stuff? So I need to get out of habit of being like, I feel so lucky. Like, because I really feel like I put all my all into my work, and because I love it. And I'm
Yes.
glad that it's sort of like this is an example of where it's paid off. And I don't know why I was sort of the person who was chosen to do it. I don't know, but I'm taking it
Because
and
you're
I'm running.
and that's right. Because and you're talented. And like you said, you work very hard. Um, and your work speaks for itself. So I mean, that's just wow, incredible. I mean,
Thank
just hearing your story is like so like inspiring. Thank you for sharing that. Uh, any advice to people out there that like want to get into that world of editing? What would you give them?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different ways in.
Mm,
Um, and there's not so many. There are a few programs that help people get into the industry as well. And I would take advantage of those things. Like in the UK, we have something called screen skills, which basically you come in as a trainee, and every production in the country pays into this scheme, and then it basically covers the cost of their wage. So then productions get a trainee out of it at a lower cost, and they get into real cutting rooms on anything from a small budget TV series to massive films.
nice.
I would be like, get signed up to that as soon as you can. And there are a few other programs, and you can get funding for things like Avid courses. So, your CV is always going to be more attractive if it looks like you're being proactive. If you are already teaching yourself how to use Avid, then that's really great.
Hmm.
Um, I think telling people what you want to do is one thing, but telling people what you want to do and then actively, you know, trying to get close to it is different, because some people wait for it to come to them, and that's not going to happen. Like if
Right.
that happens, it's sort of one in a sort of thousand.
Million. Yeah.
It's
It's very rare.
mom happens to be working in a production, sure, but like if that's not the case, then we do have to work a little bit harder. And I think putting, meeting people, so that I think people are more likely to hire you if they've met you and they know you're not a psychopath. Like I
That's
know when
always good.
if someone's meeting me before I do a job, I know it's not because they want to know if I'm competent or not. They want to know if I'm going to be nice to work. That's it. Like they don't ask me technical questions because the person hiring me probably doesn't even understand my role. They just want to know that I'm not going to be a problem.
Right.
Yeah, I like when I've interviewed trainees, for me it's like, who is this going to mean the most to? You know,
Mm-hmm.
who's going to make the biggest difference to? Because that person I know is going to give it their all. And I once had this trainee interview, and she was so adorable. She was super smart, like really on it, had done so much work on herself already to be prime candidate. And then at the end, she said, I really just want you to know I 200% want this job. And it just, I was like, in my head, I was like, you've got it, you've got the job. I know you're gonna like, and she has not let me down. And I
I
could
love
tell
it.
it was clearly a passion for her, and she was gonna do anything. And she is, you know, done incredibly well. So I think making the steps to show that, you know, this is not, you know, this is something that you really want to be a part of, because I think working in TV and film is a bit of a lifestyle choice, you know. It's
Oh
not
yeah.
right? It's not a 9 to 5 job. If you want a 9 to 5 job, you're gonna be really disappointed.
Yeah.
Um, so being relatable in that sense of being, you know, I think that really helps. But yeah, older schemes, 100%, like take advantage of them. That's what they're there for.
Yeah, I love that. That's wonderful advice. Thank you. Thank you so much. One last question, then there's no wrong answer, but the three levels of influence: money, power, and respect. And if you could choose one of those things, which one would you choose and why?
It's such an interesting question. I'm thinking about the people who like I wanna be in their position one day kind of thing, and I'm like,
Uh-huh.
what do I feel about them? And I think it would be respect, because that's one of the things that as a woman in the industry and as a minority is much harder to come by naturally. I think
Mm,
that for a lot of years in my time in this industry, I don't think that was an automatic sort of given when I walk into a room.
mm,
And it would be great if it was. And the people that I respect the most, they got power and they've got money. So I think like the way that they treat people is part of why they are where they are. And I think that when I'm in a cutting room and I have a team, the more respect we have amongst ourselves, the better we work together. It makes us
yeah.
a strong team. I love money.
Me
I
too.
like, but I think that will come of it. I mean, I've definitely been that person who's like taken a rate that I'm like, I feel like it should be more than that. But no, I'm really happy to be here and blah blah blah. And actually, it's more than I've earned before. So yeah, I'll take it. And then at the end of the job, I'll find out like a male peer has been earning more than me, even though we're doing the same job. And I'm like, I feel disrespected. I feel
Right.
I feel like, fuck you, you know. Makes me angry. And it's not even about the amount of money, it's about the disparity and
Hmm.
how that makes you feel and what that does to your self-worth. So I
Yeah.
think respect, but it's so much more
I like
complicated.
that. I like that.
And
That's a great answer. I mean, it's beautifully said. And I absolutely agree with that 100%. Wow, I really enjoyed our conversation. It's like
oh,
30
thank you
30
so
minutes is like literally going down. I'm like, no, it's already here.
much. Oh wow.
Yeah, it's already 30 minutes. But where can people find you on social media so they can find everything that you're doing and keep up with everything?
I'm only really on LinkedIn and Instagram, and it's just Liyana.Mansor on Instagram. And mostly it's like what I'm doing outside of the cutting room. So it might be really boring, but I will occasionally post about exciting projects as well.
Awesome. Oh, what a lovely
Thank you
interview.
so much.
Thank
This has
you.
been fun. It's been quite cathartic. It's been quite therapeutic, actually.
I feel like we went to therapy. I really like I thank you.
My God. Breaking into a sweat now. My God.
Yeah, same.
Did I just overshare? I don't know.
No, I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. Come back
Oh,
anytime.
thanks
Anytime.
for asking some real questions.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for sharing real, yeah, answers. Like I love that. Love that. Thank you
Love it.
all for listening. And always remember to live, love, laugh. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.